welcome to Spark. Our guests today, Richard Martin, Al Peterson, and James DeCrescentis.
Hey everyone, welcome to Spark. My name's Kerry Zagarella and this is Neil Zagarella, my co-host, and he's going to introduce our guests today.
Okay, so we have three guys that have known each other for a long time, great artists. Right here, Richard Martin, the author of 9 poetry books, 12 chapbooks, 3 story collections, and an anti-memoir. He is past recipient of the National Environment for the Arts Literature Fellowship and founder of the Big Horror Poetry Series. His latest book of poems is Leakage and Smoke. Next to him, Al Peterson in the middle. He was playing coffee houses in his home state of Michigan when he was 14. In the early 80s, no less than John Hammond, the discoverer of Billie Holiday, Bob Dylan, and Bruce Springsteen, recognized Al's talent as John Hammond was starting his own label. All these years later, Al is now working on a new album. And Jim DeCrescentis, who we're all going to call Deke for the whole show, is a painter and a poet with 50 paintings in private collections, 3 published poetry collections. He is the former director of the gallery at the Piano Factory in Boston and has numerous awards and grants for both his painting and poetry.
Awesome. Wow, what a show, right? I'd like to start with a question for you, Dick, about your live performances. So you put a lot, of course, into your writing. How do you prepare for your live performances?
Well, I think one of the things I've always done is when I write a poem, I read it out loud.
Mm.
You know, I mean, I go through that all the time. I don't write. I have to hear how it sounds.
Yeah.
Okay. And then a long time ago, Charles Olson wrote something that made an impression on me, and that was, it was up to the poet to where they found the energy of the piece,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to transfer that energy both to an audience and also to the page.
Yeah.
So I took that to heart. You know, I mean, I think I was doing that anyway, but then that kind of confirmed some of the things I felt that, and so I will, you know, when you're writing a poem, you know, there's a spontaneity that's going on in the draft, and you're not editing, you're following it, you're allowing yourself to leap, you're allowing yourself to move, you're allowing yourself to just get right into it, and that's really the most fun of all things, okay? Because time stops. There's no time.
Mm-hmm.
You're in some sort of creative space.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to put it aside, and then you have to go back and find the energy of the creation that you did into the piece that's now words in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's where you practice. You know, so before I go on stage or before I give a reading, I will, like a week beforehand, anticipate some of the things I'm going to read. And I will practice those.
Yeah.
That's what I do. Now, I don't always stick to that, but as long as I have a certain amount that I know I'm probably going to perform, I'm ready. And I can then transfer that to a poem I didn't expect to read.
Mm-hmm. I just want to ask a follow-up question. You guys can ask questions too, but I'm asking a question.
Hey, keep score.
You were saying that you just write and you allow what is happening to happen. So when certainly you probably have surprised yourself, right? When you're writing, like something happens on the page, and do you always keep those things, or do you have to cut those things?
Well, I think again, like there's a few things that over the years you hear that makes sense to you, and so there was another poet. Jack Spicer, when they asked him where his poetry came from, he said, well, I turn on the radio, it comes through the radio. I open the window, it comes through the window.
Yeah.
Aliens deliver them to me. And so, like, that struck me too.
Yeah.
And I put those two things together because I'm an alien, okay?
You heard it here first.
I'm an alien. My own work to me is based on rhythm and imagery. You know, so it's not like meter or anything like that, but it's based on just the flow of language, you know, and whether it sounds good to my ear or not, or if there's something off. I mean, it almost gets down to the word. I don't go to the syllable and not go, let's go to the syllable, and does that make sense? But I think it's hearing. You know, I think it's hearing, and you get to you get a sense that, at least to my ear, that sounds right, and that's all I can do. If it sounds right to my ear,
Right.
Yeah.
it might not sound right to other people's ears, you know, or whatever.
Right, of course.
I can't do anything about that.
Right.
But I think it's a whole combination of things. But especially when I talk to like young writers, the big thing is, don't get hung up on any of it.
Yeah.
Don't get hung up on any ways that a poem should be. Don't get hung up on what other people say about poetry. Write from the experience that you're living, you know, and how, you know, because your experience is coming in on so many angles, and you're absorbing this on different levels of your mind, and then your mind, you know, really creative mind, puts it together without you like consciously thinking I'm putting something together.
Right. Don't stop it.
Al, as a musician, you're playing same song Tuesday, Saturday,
Right.
next Tuesday. Does the song change? Are you editing along the way? Are you getting different ideas for the song as you play? Say the 50th time you played it, is it different than the first time?
Largely, it's finding a way. It's very subtle thing. I mean, I've done it different ways. I have a song that I haven't called completed, and a gig will come up, and I really like what's going on, but like one of the verses isn't really there according to my estimation. I'll play the song, you know, and get the vibe, and but once it's done, I kind of like to say it's done.
Yeah.
And then I'm left with, it's a different thing, I think, with performing. I mean, Dick is a wonderful performer of his art, you know, his poems. They just work that way. It's really awesome to see. But I just have to find another way to make it interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, when I did have this record contract with a big record company, and I had a real producer, you know, he was really hardcore. He'd say something like, well, you think this is the hit? Because if it is, you're going to play this goddamn song for the rest of your life. You know, and you better find out a way to do it. You know, and you're like going, what? You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, never really got to that level, but it always is at that level, you know, because I got all the songs that I've been playing since I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So does the melody come first? The words come first? They come together? How does that work with you?
For me, it's interesting. I mean, largely it's sitting down with the instrument, a piano or the guitar, and it's the music that sets the mood, that draws it out. Although recently I've been thinking in terms of biographical, and I've had a very interesting life, and I've had some things that I think are like a title even, that I go, wow, this is a great title, and to explore this title could be really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, so I think I'm gonna work on that.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's really
which
cool.
I haven't ever really done.
Yeah.
I always title it after.
Yeah.
But now I think I might try like, oh, here's this theme, and I'll go into it, and then I might see what comes of it.
So do the title first.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
kind of
do-
like that. Yeah, because I like the title.
I absolutely dig that, you know, because
Yeah.
like, not with poems so much. I mean, usually the poems are titled after the poem's written.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
But the fiction I write, the short fiction I write, almost all of it comes from a title, something that was said.
Oh,
Right.
Somebody that
Wow.
said something.
Huh.
You know,
Yeah.
quick example, my wife once said to me, I can't take it. You get up like you have.
Wait.
Wait.
What's said to you?
That's not me.
You're gonna have to edit that out.
I can't take it. You get up like you get up like you didn't go to bed, and you're talking like 6 a.m. You're talking about this philosopher you like and everything like that. No one wants to hear this. No one. She goes, it makes me want to put my head in the oven.
Oh, there you go,
And
baby.
I go like,
That's a poem.
and then
That's a story.
I go like, head in the oven seminar.
Thanks.
And wrote the story. And now, after all these years of living together, she's probably 50% responsible for all the titles, because we'll be talking and something will be said,
Great.
and she'll go, that's a story.
She'll know
yeah,
it.
she'll
Yeah.
let
You
you
got
know.
stories
Now
like get
she
out of the
knows.
house. I'm not talking to you anymore.
I hate you. That's one of our favorite lines. But
What's
like,
the favorite line?
No,
I hate you. We're
no.
just
I hate
joking.
you.
We're
No,
joking.
sorry about that.
Well,
No.
Deke,
Yep.
you're an abstract painter.
Yes.
Titles. How do you title your paintings? Do you have it at the beginning, middle, end, where?
I
Where
usually
get the
do
title?
it after.
Yeah.
But sometimes, this character Dick Martin will title some of my paintings. I can think of a couple of them.
Yeah.
Ultimate Grasshopper.
Yeah,
We
well,
came up with
sometimes
They
I go down
speak,
to
yeah.
Deke's studio, and back in the day, we might have a beer and smoke a little bit or
puffs,
something like that,
puffs.
puff some weed, and I look at Deke's paintings. You look at them, and they coalesce into something in your mind.
Yeah.
They just there's all kinds of things that are going on. The first painting I actually purchased this painting from Deke.
Yeah.
His paintings are for sale, by the way.
Yes,
Really
you'll
are.
find a
Yeah.
link.
They're good prices. And it's my favorite painting. It's in the house.
Yeah.
It's called Tricks on a Blue Face.
You came up with the title.
I came up with the
Yeah.
title, but I was standing in front of it, smoking a joint, and I said, how much for that painting? And Deke goes, I'll give it to you for $400. I said, Tricks on a Blue Face, huh? And he goes, that's the title. And boom. it was like that.
$375.
Yeah,
So we
$350.
then went down to Wally's Cafe to
Oh,
have
yeah.
a beer.
Oh yeah, great
And,
place.
Dick gave me half the money. Went to an ATM first. He gave me half the money,
Nice.
and he said, "I'll give you the other half, but you have to make your sauce,
Oh, that's right. There has to be a
and you
deal.
have to bring it to Rosalind Dale."
Tomato sauce.
But I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
yeah, great
Did you
sauce.
give him half the painting and
You
bring
gave
the
me-
other half
I-
with the with
Give
the
me half the
sauce?
sauce.
I walked by it today, and I thought about how can I get in here to take that painting.
back.
Bring it to my
Hold it
house.
hostage for some
Yeah.
sauce.
Yeah.
So you're also a writer, a
Yeah.
poet, but I
It's
want
a
to go
curse.
back. What?
It's a curse being both, sometimes.
Talk
Yeah.
about it.
Because I go back and forth. Should I write a poem or
About this
should
idea.
I paint or I have quite a few of my paintings have the same, and poems have the same titles. Not a lot, but I do have. When you come over to see the paintings, I'll point out some of those.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
to
that'd
you,
be cool.
Yeah.
Dee, could you talk a little bit about your process, not now, but your process in your middle part of when we were
when I was
younger?
younger.
Yeah, your process there and how that process has moved into your process now. Could you talk about that?
Well, I can. I used to work a 1:30 to 10 o'clock shift at McLean, right? Which would get me home before 11:30.
At night.
PM AM.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
I'd get home at 11:30 at night.
Okay.
And as soon as I walked in the door and I had the next couple of days off, I immediately went into painting mode. I had a Discman. I had one of those jogging pouches. Put the headphones on. I had at least 8 Sam Adams beers in the refrigerator,
At all times.
ready,
Yeah.
for the session.
What were you listening to?
For the
Oh,
session.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah, you've always had a
the-
wide
The
range.
Stones, Otis Redding, you
Yeah.
name it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't mix the paints until I cracked open the 4th beer. That's what
There's a
But
process.
the whole time I was looking at a blank space and dancing around, listening to music.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I open up the 4th beer, and start mixing the paints, and then make a long story short, about a few hours later, the paint after 8 beers, and other things.
I want to know about that time though. Like like when you look at the canvas, how do you? It's so foreign to me, so I'm interested. Like, how do you know where you first? Do you just go?
I had these big kind of broken sticks that I would mix the paints with,
Mm-hmm.
and like old soup cans, right? And I would mix maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 colors, maybe 7 sometimes, and then the sticks would have paint on them, and I would just take everything that was left on there wet on the sticks would end up as a pattern on the canvas or the paper, and then I would go crazy and wild after that and just completely attack it, you know. And then about 4 o'clock in the morning, it would be done, and I'd have a snack and go to bed.
But how do you know when it's
I just sort of
Do you call it?
I look at it the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I look at it and go, ugh, the fuck did I do that for?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but like 2 or 3 days later, I would be ignoring it for a couple of days. I'll look at it again, and I'll say, wait a minute, this is worth keeping,
Oh,
but everyone has their own process.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's interesting I've been thinking about this, coming here today and talking about, the process of creating, right? And I think for me, I started out as a songwriter, and what I mean by that is, like even, Tin Pan Alley kind of, so that when you write, for me, when I started out wanting to write like songs, there was sort of a framework already there, or a map on how to write a song in terms of, the verse, the bridge, that sort of thing. It's a lot more structured than what you guys are doing. It wasn't, it's artistic, but it's not, there was more craft kind of involved, but I was always so drawn to lyrics.
Yeah.
And the words in a song, which obviously not everybody does. Everybody, takes in art or music how they take it in. But I've always found that interesting, or lucky. I've always found lucky that I, met up with you guys, all of you at that poetry and open mic poetry readings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
And there's this guy showing, here I am with a guitar writing songs, and everybody's fucking doing poetry, But it was like, I just love words, and the power of that.
You see, you're a
It's
lyricist,
interesting.
That's
That's right.
the thing. Yeah, I'm a lyricist.
That's right.
There's craft in my poetry. There's craft in Deke's work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
It's a-
wondered if you
it's-
guys see it that way.
Yeah, no, it's
If
not,
there are tools you're bringing
it's
to
not
it. You know what I mean?
craft in the sense of like how craft is sometimes understood in poetry circles. Where it's really no edges. Just everything. I try to make everything kind of work, but at the same time, when you're dealing with a certain amount of spontaneity and movement of associations and imagery and everything like that, like I said earlier, I'm looking at it, does it work by sound, does it work by rhythm?
Yeah.
And that would be my craft, if
Music
that's
in
working.
a way too.
Okay?
Yeah.
When I listen to your music, you have much more, what I consider like just much more density and creativity in your lyricism
Right.
than a lot of music that's out there.
Yeah.
It's really, you can tell that you're a wordsmith.
Yeah.
Well, and so that's
yeah.
that's a good
Yes.
thing, but you also have the ability to put those words to music, or music vice versa.
Vice
Either
versa.
way,
Yeah.
either way you
To
do
have
it.
them work together.
Yeah.
And
So
anyway,
it's really fascinating to me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had people before me, great artists who could do that, and I was inspired by, and tried to emulate in some way.
But you were right there, Al. Okay,
Yeah.
we know
Exactly.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I was
Thank
right
you.
there.
No, you were right there.
You
You were
seriously.
right there.
Yeah,
You
no,
were right
he's
there.
right.
Not many
He's
people
right.
like are sitting in New York City with a contract, with John Hammond offering a contract. Not many people are getting that in their lifetime.
Like when you went to Stone Soup and you heard other people, how
Well,
did that inform your painting or your writing or?
Well, it was really good. There was
Yeah.
some really good poetry, and all of it is it's art, and You know, why are we drawn to art? Okay. It fulfills something in us and our emotional beings about what it means to be alive. You know what I mean? As a human being, if you open yourself up to it, you know. So if you go to hear a performer or an artist and you just let it happen for you, and that's sort of the remarkable thing about it, how another person's art experience, what have you, you've let it in and it connects with you. It can even speak for you, something you couldn't have articulated, and all of a sudden there it is, you know? And like, wow, so this is kind of a gift of humanity. You know what I mean? Wow, what do they call it? The humanities, right? I just realized. Hey, somebody's been thinking about this.
Right on.
Yeah, right on. So that was
Thank you, Al.
soup. Yeah.
I'll take your course.
Yeah.